Good evening and welcome to our April 14th meeting. Call to order moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the April 14th, 2025 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If you could all rise for the singing of the national anthem. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Item 11A from the consent agenda, being a summary of the Committee of the Whole meeting regarding fleet, has been asked to be pulled for discussion.
And thank you. And just before that, I forgot to ask for declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any? Okay. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of the minutes. Are there any changes or errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings, including closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. Committee of the Whole minutes, March 24th, 2025. Previous meeting minutes, March 24th, 2025. All those in favor? Carried. We'll get into the public meeting, zoning bylaw 01-2025, 2592765 Ontario Inc., and Architecture Incorporated. Ms. Haley, if you'll introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I have with me this evening Paul Demchuk, who's with Battery Planning and Management. Paul is representing the property owners, and we will be doing our presentation together this evening. So I'm going to get started with wording that's required under the Ontario Planning Act. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please note that only the applicant, a specified person, public body, registered owner of any land to which the bylaw would apply, or the minister may appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry within 20 days of the notice of decision being given. If a specified person, public body, or registered owner of any land to which the bylaw would apply does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person, public body, or registered owner is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as the OLT, or be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before their OLT unless there are reasonable grounds to do so. We'll now get started in discussing the actual proposed amendment. So this meeting is going to begin with a presentation summarizing the application, followed by a discussion period which all attendees of the public will have an opportunity to provide input on the proposed amendment. The subject property is located at part of lots 10 and 11 in the former Township of Lancaster, Concession 1, being parts 2 to 5 on Reference Plan 14R6199 in the former Township of Lancaster, now in the Township of South Glengarry, and is located at 6100 4th Line Road. This is a key map of where the subject property is located. You'll see the areas highlighted in black. It's located on the north side of the Highway 401 at the Curry Hill interchange and on the west side of the county road. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone a portion of the subject property from highway commercial to light industrial exception 4. The reason for the exception is to reduce the required interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.85 meters, which we can explain a little later. All other applicable provisions of our zoning bylaw will continue to apply if this amendment is approved. Now, this slide shows the area that is specifically proposed to be rezoned. You'll see that there's a portion of the parcel of property on the south corner that's been removed, and that's where there's an existing gas station today. And the reason why that area is not proposed to be rezoned is because the applicant, or the property owner, will propose to sever the property in the future, which will allow that gas station to exist on an independent parcel of property. So the subject property, as I mentioned, is proposed to be severed to create in 2 lots. Again, one containing the gas station and the proposed development. I'm now going to turn it over to Paul, and he'll get into the details of the actual development.
Thank you very much, Joanne, and nice to meet you all tonight. My name is Paul Demchak with Victoria Planning and Management. Again, I'm the planning consultant on behalf of the applicant and owner for this evening. So obviously the purpose of this public meeting is to introduce the application to council and the public, and I'll walk through what is being proposed this evening. You can see here a rendering is obviously shown of the employment building that's proposed on the site, and I'll explain that in further detail in a moment. How do I go down? I think I've got one more up. Okay. I'll get the hang of this, I promise. So the subject site at 6100 4th Line, again, it's located on the northwest corner of the 401 and 4th Line Road interchange. The site is in a regular shape, and it's got a total lot area of approximately 49,000 square meters or 4.89 hectares. The site's currently occupied by a single detached dwelling, as well as the existing Shell gas station, as was mentioned, and also excess vacant lands, as you can see in this image. I'll just note that surrounding the subject site, including a number of land uses. Obviously, to the north are existing vacant lands, as well as the rail corridor. To the south are vacant lands in the Highway 401 interchange. To the west is Sutherland Creek and vacant lands associated with the subject property. And to the east is an existing gas bar, ancillary truck parking, a restaurant, and commercial buildings on the east side of 4th Line Road. These are just a couple of images of the existing Shell gas station you can see on the left image, and then also the existing single detached dwelling that currently exists at the rear of the site on the right. It's in the distance in between the trees. So this is just the official plan mapping. I'll just briefly linger on this for a moment just to provide some planning context. So on the left-hand side is the land use schedule within the official plan. The site is designated as employment district on Schedule A6 of the official plan. Table 3.5 in the official plan outlines all the permitted uses within the employment district. I'll just note that this includes Class 1, 2, and 3 industrial uses, transportation and distribution industries near transportation corridors, such as the subject site, as well as office uses and other ancillary retail and facilities. The image on the left is Schedule B3, which is the Natural Heritage Constraints Map. I'll note that the site is adjacent to and contains significant woodlands adjacent to Sutherland Creek. And further, the United Counties GIS mapping portal shows the subject site and adjacent lands containing unevaluated coastal wetlands. Okay, the zoning of the subject site. The subject site is zoned currently as CH Highway Commercial by the Town of South Glengarry zoning bylaw 3809 as amended. I might not get a handle of it. Okay, so this is just a key plan which helps describe what was articulated earlier about the future lot creation and what's intended for the site. So the site is to be severed from the existing lot, which is specifically Lot C, where the existing Shell gas station is located. And it's to be developed into 2 future lots, referred to obviously as Lot A and Lot B. Lot A is intended for the construction of a building comprising of a truck terminal, maintenance shop, warehouse, office space, and the accompanying parking lot, and I'll show that in a brief moment. And Lot B is intended to remain as vacant lands and is not subject to any future development. Just briefly, this is an image from the Ministry of Transportation. So obviously the site's located beside the Highway 401 and the county road. And the Ministry of Transportation has indicated future plans to modify this interchange ramp configurations in the future. It's intended that obviously a realignment of County Road 2 will specifically happen, which will bisect the subject site as shown in this image. And I'll just again go up that. This realignment corresponds with the road that you can see here, which bisects the subject site on this key plan. So this is now the site plan of the proposed development. So the development includes the demolition of the existing dwelling that exists currently on the property to facilitate the development of the truck terminal, warehouse, vehicle maintenance shop, and offices. I will note that the development will be accessible from 4th line on an interim basis, and then once the road realignment occurs, access will be provided from the new realigned County Road 2. A future consent application would sever the existing gas bar portion of the lands, which again are noted as Lot C, from the balance of the site, and the future County Road 2 would create a natural severance at the time of construction of that road. As shown in this site plan, which is prepared by N Architecture, again, the development is divided into 2 lots. And again, Lot A includes the main building and facilities, while Lot B, just to reiterate, is a vacant lot just to the west of the realigned County Road and will not be subject to any development. And this lot is, generally speaking, it's intended to provide for future vegetative buffers and mitigate impacts on Sutherland Creek. These are just a few perspective views and renderings. The first image shows the office space that's proposed on the left side of the building. And then beside the office space on the right is the intended future vehicle maintenance workshop. And then the image on the right is the warehouse portion of the building. I'll just note a few key statistics from the development. Actually, sorry, first I'll go to this. You can see here some of the other images. Actually, this image here on the right, this is the warehouse portion of the development on the right. And here on the left is, it doesn't actually show it here, but in front of this building, this is the back side of the warehouse portion of the building, as well as the office and maintenance shop. This is where the existing Shell gas station is located on the property. There's intended to be obviously some future vegetated buffers, fencing to be located to just additionally screen that specific facade. So the development will include a total gross floor area of just over 3,700 square meters or 40,000 square feet. The office space is about just over 6,000 square feet. The maintenance shop is about 8,000 square feet, and then the warehouse obviously takes up the balance of the building and just is over 25,000 square feet of total floor area. The development, as you've shown in the site plan, it includes a significant number of parking spaces. So that includes a total of 141 parking spaces associated with this development, which includes 52 spaces for tractors, 34 spaces for trailers, and then 55 spaces for passenger parking, as well as 9 loading bays obviously associated with the warehouse and maintenance shop portions of the development. These are just a few axonometric views and renderings of the development. You can see just from, I'll call it a bird's eye view. I'll note that within the development portion of the site, there's still about just under 20% or 17.6% of the site will be landscaped. And the landscaping obviously will intend to provide for stormwater retention, buffering from adjacent uses, and will intend to obviously improve the overall aesthetics of the site. Landscaped areas will include obviously trees, plantings that will be proposed, as well as additional plantings within that non-developed lot adjacent to the creek. All that landscaping components obviously will come out in a future site plan application, which will be down the road and not subject to obviously what's before council today, which is just the zoning amendment at this time. Here's just a few other images of what it will look like. So just in brief summary, this is obviously a public meeting to speak about the site-specific amendment to the zoning bylaw, which will obviously facilitate the development. The proposed automotive and ancillary uses are complementary to and consistent with other types of uses in this area and compatible with uses in the immediate context, which, as I noted previously, include a gas bar, ancillary truck parking, restaurant, and commercial buildings in this immediate context. The development improves the existing underutilized site into an attractive employment area and provides a significant new investment in this local community where contextually appropriate employment uses are anticipated, as I showed previously in the official plan. And the development is located in close proximity to obviously a major highway, being the 401 highway, with vehicle access and egress designed to facilitate safe and efficient access, which have been obviously provided and commented on as well by the Ministry of Transportation. And again, this is a permitted land use within the official plan. Just finally, the proposed building design and landscaping is appropriately buffered from adjacent uses, and all environmental features associated with Sutherland Creek are appropriately protected as provided in our technical studies, and specifically our environmental impact study that was submitted with the application. That concludes my presentation. And I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak in front of council this evening, and I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. So I'll just continue in closing. So the subject property is currently designated employment district, as Paul has mentioned, and in the opinion of staff, the proposed amendment does conform to both the official plan and the planning policy statement. Policy planning statement. I said that backwards. I have to get used to the new PPS term. The zoning amendment application was circulated to the abutting property owners within 120 meters of the subject site, as well as various agencies, including the Ministry of Transportation, the United Counties of SD&G, and the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. To date, we have not received any written comments from the public in advance of the meeting this evening. We have received comments from MTO. I've basically summarized them in 2 bullet points here. Their first comment was they have no concerns with the proposed zoning amendment, and then they provided a very detailed letter primarily indicating requirements for site plan control and permitting approvals if this amendment were to be approved. And we would continue working with MTO on subsequent site plan control application if the amendment is approved. So we are asking the members of the public to have all their comments to us by Friday, April 18th, if possible. I realize Friday is a statutory holiday for many of us, but there's ways of submitting your comments. And our intention is to bring a staff report to council on May 12th, 2025 with a recommendation, and that would be subject to workload, and hopefully we'll be able to make that date. So as Paul indicated, we're both available to answer any questions from members of council or the public. Thank you.
We'll start with Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, I don't have any particular, I guess, questions. It was more, I guess, something for the public. I guess if there's some members of the public that are looking at this for the first time, I think the County Road 2 maybe stands out, whereas council's been aware, and we've had a number of meetings with the MTO regarding that road, and it appears that this is the way they would wish to realign it. This would be the elimination of the existing bridge that comes across the 401. When you take Old Highway 2 on the north side and end up on the south side, that bridge would be eliminated, realigned, and traffic would more or less be pushed to Fourth Line Road and across the current structure that's there at the truck stop. So, but no, at this point, I don't think I have any specific questions regarding the intent of tonight's meeting being the rezoning. I think it seems like it fits, and I'll look to staff for the recommendation when the time comes.
All right, and thank you for clarifying that for the members of the audience. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. I was hoping that Ms. Haley, if you wouldn't mind just repeating, just because there was a very thorough presentation, but if we could go back to the beginning and just if you could repeat the specifics around the rezoning, like what's permitted today in the current zone, and what specifically is required in this development that's being proposed that would be met by the light industrial zone, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your question. So the current property, as we mentioned, is zoned highway commercial. The highway commercial zone offers a variety of commercial uses, but it doesn't accommodate really the tractor-trailer industry or the trucking industry. So the reason for the zoning amendment with the proposed warehouse and truck parking with the office spaces being ancillary to the warehouse, that's what's triggering the zoning amendment to go from highway commercial to light industrial. The reason for the exception portion is, this might be a little more clear. It's hard to tell on this screen, and I do apologize for that, but the building is proposed to be quite close to the future lot line where the severance is proposed, and that's the reason for the reduction in the interior side yard setback. So if this amendment were to be approved, basically all permitted uses that fall in our current light industrial zone, which there's a variety of those uses, I wouldn't be able to list every one of them off the top of my head, would be permitted to be on that site. But we know that the developer today is proposing the warehouse as we indicated, and that's the primary use. Paul, you might want to add something to that in terms of knowing the detail of the development much better.
Sure. So just for council and the public's benefit, that reduced side yard setback, obviously, it doesn't exist today, that side yard setback. This is only a condition that obviously exists once that severance in the future occurs with the Shell gas station. And then, as was pointed out, the light industrial use from a zoning perspective just better aligns with obviously the truck terminal use that we are proposing, and is obviously a permitted use in the official plan where it states that obviously a number of trucking-related uses associated with sites that are in close proximity to the highway in particular are obviously permitted within these employment districts.
All right, are there any comments from the members of the public?
Hi there, my name's Colin Mitchell. I've
Oh.
lived in the area all my life.
Okay, just, we will have to set up something so you can speak, because we record.
I can speak louder.
Oh, well, we record online, so it has to, you have to turn it on for the microphone, so, public record. So just approach it. You do have to speak fairly closely if you have a quiet voice like mine, and your name and your address.
Hi there, my name's Colin Mitchell. I live on 5816 Fourth Line Road. So basically, I drive through that area all my life. And my question, I'm not pro or anti the development. My question is, what's everybody going to do with the traffic flow on that road? As David Robertson, he's lived there all his life too, can probably attest to. He's probably been nailed at least 10 times in his life by trucks coming from the SO on the right-hand side. They're supposed to theoretically drive through the South Shore Road, and then there's a stop sign. 50–60% of them drive through the access where the cars are. So that's, as David can attest to, he's probably been there for a lot of accidents with the fire department. So you're going to put something on the other side of the road with access to the Fourth Line Road, as well as a development for 40 or 50 trucks in the new field that was gravelled, where Artie McCraig's farm was. So how is a car supposed to get through there if there's going to be 4 or 5 different accesses for trucks turning onto the road? Is there a possibility of one access with a traffic light?
So,
The other question I have for that, I've lived there all my life, is anybody putting a new base on that road? It can't handle the current traffic of vehicles. It's always falling apart. So what's the plan for cars to get through there, particularly because it's an ETR road?
okay, so I will have to, like, unfortunately, this meeting is based on the changing it from 6 meters to 1.85 meters. That's what we're supposed to be focused on, if I recall properly. However, because it's, and highway commercial going to district.
So you're
Yes, well,
adding,
but I'm not-
theoretically, you're adding 3 more accesses for trucks?
Oh, yes, but
And
I think
on
our
that
planner-
road, and the removing of old number 2? So how is a car ever supposed to come through that?
Yep.
Because trucks have a tendency to bully, and they expect you to stop.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I was doing the scope properly, but if there's an answer, I'm sure it comes from either Ms. Haley or Ms. McDonald, depending on how far along we are in the.
Like, again,
in the
I'm not
planning.
for or against this, I'm just talking about what's the current plan with this being an ETR road and develop multiple accesses, like 60 feet apart, for trucks to pull out. How's this going to work?
Okay. Councillor McDonnell, and then we'll get staff to answer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Colin, I think it's a valid point. I think it's something, though, that maybe council and our staff could direct to the United Counties. Just things, those are going to be two county roads, not going to be on us at this point. So I would say it's probably something we could look to the United Counties to maybe come up with a development plan for that road. I mean, the base should be, theoretically, should be up to spec, but it should come up whenever the road's redone.
If it's possible, can I make a suggestion?
Well, just,
I guess
Councillor
my only
McIntyre
thought
finish.
would be that we take your comment and we share that with United Counties as well for their input. I mean, at this point, I guess they haven't, but we'd look to them for some more comment on that.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Why not, everybody knows old number 2 is being moved. Why not put the access in for both sides of the highway? And the highway can be completed later when old number 2 overpass is going to be torn down. But for example, everybody knows the old number 2 is going in where the Shell gas station is. That's where it's being diverted to. Put the divert, and then there's one access point, not 6. It's the same with the truck stop, where the Esso is. Put the diversion in there, and that's where the trucks come out of. You want to put a traffic circle, you want to put a traffic light, but you're taking away 6 accesses, and you're putting one on either side of the road, and everybody's problem is solved. It's just the only other question I would have is, I've lived there all my life, like David, and I think David could attest to it too. The road doesn't have the ability now, it needs a new base. Who's paying for that?
yeah, ultimately, that's in our asset management plans and going through our roads needs study. But Ms. McDonald for that question, and then for planning question, we'll go back to Joanne. She'll just probably sit beside you and take the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For everyone here, I'm the General Manager of Infrastructure Services for the Township of South Glengarry, so I can't speak on behalf of SDG, but I've sat through enough site plan control meetings with them that I would expect through that process. So if this amendment goes through and we get to site plan control, which is, and Joe, is it okay if I keep, yeah, it's where we determine where the accesses go and how everything will work, that SDG and MTO will require something called a traffic impact study. They will also, if they believe that the road can't sustain the load, they'll request that the developer do a geotechnical study and determine if any upgrades need to be done. In terms of the realignment, that would be an MTO, so Ministry of Transportation funded, or it would be their project, and they would do it at their cost through the provincial funding. If we were to do that at either the SDG or the South Glengarry level, we would be kind of jumping the gun on what they may want to do, because they will ultimately determine how their configuration wants to work. And while they do have a plan, they could change that through detailed design. So excellent questions, but at South Glengarry's perspective from Infrastructure Services, I'd say a little premature in terms of receiving an answer that satisfies everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Haley?
Can I start? Okay, thank you. Just quickly to address the comments, so thank you very much for those. Just to note, obviously, a traffic impact study has been submitted with the current application. It's been reviewed, obviously, by the county. We're still waiting for comments, as well as MTO, which has determined that, obviously, the traffic impacts are supportable from their perspective. And I'll just note, obviously, this plan shows the ultimate condition. There's a temporary condition where there is going to be an access to the site from Fourth Line. That will obviously be removed once the realignment happens. And obviously, the locations of the future entrances have been designed to I'm not the traffic engineer, but I will note that the locations of the entrances have been designed to the specifications of both the county and Ministry of Transportation, just to ensure appropriate and safe distances from intersections and from adjacent accesses.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions from the community? Okay, please come up and, I guess, just introduce yourself, your name and your address, and then speak into the mic, please, just because it gets recorded. That way we can look back and find exactly what was said.
Okay. I just have my name is Aline Danieli. I live in Glendale Subdivision, and this is my first time here, and that's why I wanted to meet everybody, so I know who it is over here. I just want to clarify, who is going to be paying for all of this? Is it the MTO or a grant from MTO? Like, is the
Ms. Haley.
municipality putting out any money, and are the taxpayer going to be affected by this?
Okay, Ms. Haley will answer that question.
Thank you for your question through you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's an excellent question. That's a really good question for the public to understand as well. Every time we receive development applications that are proposed by a property owner or developer, all of the costs are borne by the developer. There's no dollars that are spent on tax dollars for their specific development. You heard Ms. McDonald, our General Manager of Infrastructure, explain that sometime in the future, the Ministry of Transportation may choose to realign that county road and that interchange. And when the Ministry of Transportation works on their interchanges, makes any changes to their on or off ramps, all that money is paid for by the province. So we would not have to put out any of South Glengarry tax dollars if and when the Ministry of Transportation chooses to redesign that interchange. I'll give you even a little bit more information that even when the developer applies for amendments like this, they pay application fees. They also pay review fees that cover the costs of professionals and staff to review the time so that it's not coming out of tax dollars. So the developers may not appreciate that, but I think our taxpayers do appreciate that when it's entirely funded by the developer.
Just one more question. Now, okay, the developer does everything. Who reviews it in the township here? Who reviews all of the engineer's report or the consultations report? Who reviews that in our township here?
That's another excellent question. I'm glad you came to our public meeting this evening. So there's actually a very large team of professional employees and consultants behind this development. So in order for an application like this to be filed, there's a lot of studies that need to be done up front before we even get to the public meeting stage. So the developer would have invested dollars on a traffic impact study, we heard, on an environmental impact study because of the proximity to the creek. So that's just an example of a couple, but various studies are completed. A planning report by the gentleman Paul you met also does a report. When I receive a complete application for the development stage, if the zoning amendment is approved, we then circulate that application to the Ministry of Transportation, so they have a team of traffic engineers and planners that review it. We circulate it to the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. You heard that this is impacting 2 county roads. So the counties have qualified staff and professional engineers that would do the review. We also circulate to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. They have a role in regards to stormwater management and floodplain and any impacts that may be to the Sutherland Creek. We also have an engineering firm that's on retainer, the municipality does. And when we use that engineering firm, they do a review on behalf of administration, and then those costs incurred get invoiced back to the developer so that we're not paying directly for that review team. And then we have our general manager of infrastructure, who's a professional engineer, our fire chief, our chief building official is sitting over there, and myself as a planner. So it's amazing actually how many people behind the scenes get involved and review these applications.
That was a great question and answer. I didn't even know all that. I believe was there another hand up? Okay, again, just when you come up, make sure the thing is red. It's the gray button, and your name and your civic address, please.
Yes, hi. My name is Richard Russell. My address is 3480 Marydale, so I'm actually from South Stormont. I'm not sure if I'm permitted to ask a question, but I'm here now. I guess I'll go ahead.
I've never
Okay.
had somebody from out of
Sure.
township. but,
So I had
go
a
ahead.
quick question. You touched on the fact that the Raisin River Conservation Authority was notified. Also in the presentation previous, you mentioned the features of the Sutherland Creek and also adjacent wetlands. Was there an environmental statement made, or is that even required for this development, for the proponent?
Okay, I believe the answers are probably behind you. Just 1 second.
Thank you very much for the question. For the council and the public, so yes, there was an environmental impact study that was required as part of a complete application and was submitted, obviously in support of the application. And what you see here on the screen actually is the site plan, and I'll note that to the left, or to the west of where the future county road is to be realigned, all those lands are intended to be entirely protected, and they're non-developable lands associated with the development. And you can kind of see some of the hatching. There's actually some of the documents from the EIS include a 30-meter minimum vegetative buffer, which has been demonstrated and shown on the plan, as well as retention and new future plantings that will be implemented at the time of construction of this development.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up question?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Are there any further questions amongst the public or amongst the council? All right. Seeing that, I suppose we received the report and we'll move on. Ms. Haley, do you have any closing comments? Okay. Well, that concludes the public meeting portion of this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your questions. So then we'll move to presentations and delegations. CMHA Champlain East Hoarding Support Program, Anne-Marie Leger. And Claire, I think it says on the presentation.
Okay, can we hear us? Oh, like, can we hear me okay? Oh, yeah, we can. Okay. Hello, thank you for having us today. So my name is Anne Marie, and this is Claire. We come from Canadian Mental Health Association, Champlain East. It's a nonprofit organization. Oh, I gotta click. So many things to do. So who we are quickly. So CMHA Champlain East offers a range of programs and services designed to enhance the rehabilitation, recovery, and independence of individuals living with mental illness or concurrent disorder.
You click, please.
No, you're good. Oh, I
Oh,
gotta
no,
click.
that, no, click that.
Oh, this one. God. Too many clicks.
Too many clicks. So as it said in the slide before, we do offer a lot of programs. I'm not going to go through all of them because we're here today specifically to talk about the hoarding program. But just to sort of highlight what we do, our main program is the intensive case management program and community support, both of which Anne Marie and I do, as well as being leads in the hoarding program.
Okay. So just briefly, so the hoarding support program, so the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for hoarding disorders are persistent difficulty discarding or parting with possessions, regardless of the actual value. The symptoms result in the accumulation of large numbers of possessions that congest and clutter active living areas and substantially compromise the intended living space. The symptoms cause significantly distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. I'll apologize for my voice. I'm just getting over a cold, so it might be in and out. Just heads up.
So just some hoarding facts. The prevalence of hoarding is 2 to 5% in the general population. So when you're looking at the township of South Glengarry, I believe it's about 13,500. Is that about right? So 2 to 5%, you're looking at about, I believe it's 270 people to about 675 people that would be actively affected by hoarding. Up to 85% of people living in a hoarding situation can identify another family member. We see a large genetic component to it as well. And most of the common co-occurring mental health diagnoses that we see along with hoarding are major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. As well, we also often see an overlap with ADHD as well as being a big contributor to hoarding.
So the effects of hoarding, getting too many items and refusing to part with them results in disorganized piles or stacks of items, such as newspaper, clothes, paperwork, books, or sentimental items. Items that crowd and clutter your walking spaces and living areas. Rooms that can't be used for their intended purpose, such as not being able to sleep in their bedroom. Buildup of food or trash or to large unsanitary levels.
I don't know where that one went, sorry. Geez, distress, so effects of hoarding continued. Distress or problems functioning or keeping yourself, others, and pets safe at home. Obviously, with the high volume of items in the home, the person themselves are not safe. We saw a woman this morning, actually, who had a black eye from a bin that had fallen on her over her bed. Conflict with others who try to reduce or remove clutter from your home. A lot of people are just under the impression, why wouldn't you just get rid of the stuff, right? People that are suffering from the disorder get very defensive with that line of thinking, and that tends to push the resistance towards any sort of treatment. We'll see a lot of relationship issues, avoiding social activities, and employment problems. Again, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt involved with hoarding. People don't want to have people in their homes. Relationships break down. One person continues to hoard, the other person cannot put up with it. And, you know, they don't want to have people obviously in their home. A lot of times it's very hard to get even our foot in the door to start. And difficulty organizing items and sometimes losing important items in the clutter.
So we see a lot of hoarding versus squalor, so I'll just briefly go over that. So hoarding is a persistent difficulty discarding, so the attachment to the item, accumulation of large number of possessions, and significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. Squalor, Diogenes syndrome, that would be the unsanitary living environment, which may result in extreme domestic neglect, so no personal attachment. So we don't support squalor, we do the hoarding component. In some cases, we do have both squalor and hoarding, and I just have a few pictures to kind of give you some ideas. So this would be like a squalor situation. Another squalor situation. And this would be more of your hoarding. So they try to kind of put things in areas so this is kind of like a neat, organized hoarding situation. But sometimes, like I was saying, we would have the two. And I somehow went backwards. There we go. So just briefly, the assessment tools. So when we arrive on scene to perform an assessment, we use the clutter image rating scale. So this is just a view of the bedroom. So we support clients, obviously with all ranges, but 5 and up we would be like an emergency situation. 4 and under would be another ICM worker in our organization, but because we specialize with the hoarding, it would be Claire and I from 5 and up. This is just another view of the living room area. The homes tool, so this is the homes tool is what we support with clients as we provide supports. So we do this every 6 months with the clients so that we kind of see where they are in the progress and what's needing help and where they're needing support in. That's just the back of that. And this is the most recent home tools that we've been using. It's called the Heath. We just did a training in Barrie for this one, so it's just new. I can't read it, so hang on. Find mine here. Can't read this one. So this one really just talks about like safe pathways, the fire safety, the structural integration, health and wellness, and the sanitation. So this works really, really well when we do that, so we're able to get all the check marks on where they're needing support. This is our 10 steps to safety. So this we provide to clients and organizations and the agencies around our surrounding area to help clients so that they know that the 10 steps to their safety in their home.
So for potential hazards, hoarding health risks, poor sanitary conditions, poor air quality, pest infestations, mold problems. I mean, when you've got that volume of stuff, obviously you cannot keep up with, you know, if there's sort of rodent situation, you can't always even see that to start. We see a lot of issues with, you know, cockroach infestation as well. Clients that have a lot of animals, you'll see a lot of like, you know, high ammonia in the air can be very, very poor for quality for breathing. Physical injuries, increased risk of falls. We do see a lot of senior clients. I would say that that's kind of the majority of the clients that we work with. And, you know, it's terrifying to see some of these elderly folk that have got all this stuff and just so at risk of falling. And we see a lot of people that end up hospitalized. And then obviously collapsing clutter, like I was mentioning that lady before, just the fact that there's virtually nowhere to move in her place and she's sleeping on these bins. And yeah, it was just, so again, it's not safe. It could actually kill a person, right? No, it's okay. And other potential hazards would be fire hazards, so increase in flammable material, damaged wires due to rodent infestation, faulty appliances and or non-functional gas or electricity systems. Again, so much stuff you can't even get access to. Things are pushed against heaters. That's why when we work with fire prevention, we'll come into a lot of the homes because there's been an identified huge risk to try and at least help, excuse me, I've taken on Anne-Marie's voice. Sorry about that. So we'll come in even if we can just sort of mitigate the risk. Structural damage, again, lack of routine maintenance, water damage, load bearing. I mean, especially some of the upstairs apartment, when we see the high volumes of items, it's scary to us, like what's the impact on the household, right, on the structure.
So what can CMHA do to help? So CMHA will provide intensive case management to individuals dealing with the hoarding issues, so one-to-one supports. And we actually offered a Buried in Treasures workshop. It's a 12-week program, and it helps the clients kind of figure out the reasons why they do hoard. That's you.
So we have our hoarding coalition. We formed a partnership with members of the community like fire, police, bylaw, housing, lawyers, Children's Aid, OSPCA, organizers in housekeeping and pest control. The coalition has been running now for over 5 years. And we use that so if we have sort of a mutual client that's been flagged that we're having some resistance, we can work together to brainstorm how to kind of find ways to support that person and maybe find some creative ways to help them. As well, we use it for educational components, so we can offer workshops as well to our community partners, to the public. Anything I'm forgetting on that one for the coalition? No? Okay.
So why are we here? So we're wanting to increase awareness about hoarding disorder and promote community connections. So obviously, the funding is always limited, so we're always trying to put our brain in there and try to get funding around because we're a nonprofit. And that's why we're coming to all the townships in the city to see what supports can be provided, whether that's free access to the dump, access to bins, free garbage stickers, because a lot of the clients, that's the biggest thing, is because there's only 3 garbage bags or whatever it is in the communities, and then we have to buy the stickers, and we provide the stickers, and it's ongoing, and so we're trying to make sure that we can provide the best supports, and finding who can help us with what, basically. Some townships have provided us with garbage stickers, and that's been great. Some have given us access to the dump, access to bins. So like for us to get a bin for a client for a week, that's like $750 for 4 days. So if you have bins that are accessible that we're able to provide to these clients in the surrounding areas, that's also something that we're looking for. Go, click.
So basically, our services, they're free, confidential, and mobile. One of the good things about CMHA is the fact that, unlike a lot of other agencies, we do get to go into the homes of people and work with them and be able to continue to monitor the progress, monitor the maintenance, and try and help people maintain where they're at. Referrals can be made by service providers or by the individual themselves. Services are voluntary, they are client-focused, and they are not time-limited, especially where hoarding is concerned. We can be working for years with somebody as it's sometimes slowly chipping away at the issue. Services are not restricted to individuals with serious mental illnesses. I mean, there are some that we do, but we don't discriminate against that. If somebody's got sort of functional depression, but there's still some coping there, obviously we're going to help. And there's our number and our website, and there we go. Referrals can be made online. Sorry, that's good.
Do we have any questions?
Go to Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Anne-Marie and Claire, for your presentation and providing all that information, just awareness, I guess, and spreading that awareness. I was not aware 2 to 5% population are facing this issue, and then on top of everything else you do at CMHA, it's one other thing. And I could see that because I'm sure there's a lot of embarrassment and shame in trying to reach out for help, but I mean, now it's out there, and if you know someone that maybe needs some help, now you have a support or an avenue to go to. In terms of your asks, I know in South Glengarry we have 2 free dump days, so that might be something that South Glengarry residents can have and use every year. They have 2 free dump days, so that might help a little bit. Yeah, so that was just a comment, and thank you very much for your presentation.
All right. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. Thanks very much for coming to present. Definitely, this is a serious issue, and looking through folks I've known over my lifetime, there are some photos there that I definitely recognize, and as you say, there is a lot of shame around that, and it's hard for those folks. And sometimes it's like an accumulation over time, right? And then it gets to a point where they can't anymore. And when I was thinking about like how would you help someone like that, and when you start chipping away, and how they're into the being able to start parting with some of that. If you now have these barriers of not actually being able to dispose of anything, like that's going to stop the progress flat. And although there's costs, there's costs of sending things to the landfill, there's also like big society costs of helping these folks, or if they do end up having some sort of medical issue, or if there's a fire or whatnot, like there's a lot of costs that come from this. So I think it's good if there's a way that we can help to try to reduce the incidences of this. But maybe I'm glad that Councillor Bougie mentioned the 2 free dump days, but maybe it might be something to reach out to staff when you do have a specific situation. Or with the fire chief, I believe that those are the kind of issues that it might be more on a case-by-case type of discussion to have. At least I certainly would be supportive of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Fire Chief Dave Robertson would like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, personally, I would like to thank both Anne-Marie and Claire and their team at CMH. we, both bylaw services and fire services, use their expertise, the tools that they provide. We use it, I wouldn't say often, but when it's required, we require it in short order, and because it is a struggle both to the property owners, but it also, for those of us who have to assist them, be it in an emergency perspective, helping them get through their struggles, the tools and the staff at CMHA is very much appreciated. So I just wanted to pass that thanks on. So.
All right, would council be interested, because normally the process, like we don't, we receive it and then staff comes back with a recommendation at a next meeting. Is there interest for staff to come back and recommend something? I know Councillor Jaworski prepared a framework and it was kind of like how much money gets allocated to different places, so there might be something there, or in lieu, like as you mentioned, the garbage tags. If staff could come back, I don't know who's that department that would rest with. We'll go either fire or bylaw. So to come back in a subsequent meeting with perhaps some recommendations, and they can reach out to you to see if there's some things that way that work. Because otherwise, for the moment, we're just receiving it, but we're thankful for your time and your attention on this matter. I did some professional organizing in Canada courses in 2014, and it was like, do not go into a hoarder's household unless you're specifically trained. And after some of those pictures, I can see why. And in addition to reminding me of Christmas whenever family was coming over in 3 hours, some of our rooms would just have boxes behind the doors. So fortunately, we never got that far. But if you'd like to any closeout, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, that's great. Just a comment about so 2 free dump days a year. So they have to live in South Glengarry, and if we had someone that was bringing it there, they'd have to give their address without issue, and they wouldn't, like, that'd be fine, because a person wouldn't be there, so they'd have to give the address, and that's okay?
I'm sure that could be done with, it would be Miss McDonald who you'd coordinate that with, but I'm sure there'd be some
I'm just
common
curious,
sense there.
because like the client would never be the client going, so it either, who's the guy we get for dump there? Colin DeBin, or like whoever it would be going there. I just don't know I don't want them to have an issue. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking out loud at this point. And then, to staff, yeah, okay, perfect. That was just basically my only question, but thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
And we'll just get that answered. Perhaps Ms. McDonald can provide some thought.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a form that a resident can fill out if they're sending someone else on their behalf. So they're verifying that this waste is coming from somewhere within South Glengarry. And then it goes against their addresses, free dump days.
All right.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. Our next presentation will be Move Energy EV Charging Station Proposal, Mohammed Etasem. And please correct me if I said your last name wrong.
I think you did really well. It's Ehtisham.
It's very phonetically read. I should know that after reading many names. Sorry for that mistake. I'm a McDonald that often gets called MacDonald, so I should know better.
So thank you everyone for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here. We are proposing to provide some charging stations in Lancaster, Ontario. We feel it's a very exciting opportunity to partner with a local municipality and bring benefits to the community while we do so. So on our agenda today is we're going to talk about how people transportation, the current situation in Lancaster in the township of South Glengarry, how transportation itself is changing, and how our proposal can set up the township of South Glengarry, the community of South Glengarry and Lancaster to benefit from it, who we are and what we're looking for in terms of support from the township to make this a reality. So right now on Highway 401, it's a very busy road. It's one of the busiest in the whole world, actually. We see around 18,000 to 50,000 cars that drive on this highway. County Road 34, a military road, also connects Alexandria, it connects North Glengarry, Highway 417, and Highway 401. Also, in the summertime, in speaking with local businesses, there are campers at the Glengarry Campground and the surrounding areas that use this facility. At the moment, however, we see that a lot of these people that are within the community seem to drive through Lancaster, but there are so many wonderful businesses that could benefit from the changes that are happening. We're seeing that in transportation, and again, this is a little bit affected by the overall North American political situation, but in the long run, this still applies in our opinion. We feel that electric cars are being adopted by more and more people, that they're using it for transport. As a statistic that we've just come across recently is S&P Global Automotive in the last quarter of 2024, about a third of all new car sales in Quebec were electric. 16% or 1 in every 6 in Ontario, as well as Canada-wide, were electric. And it's only going to grow faster as cars get better, as options increase, as they become more affordable. And so with this change, we see an opportunity to partner with local communities. And that's what we're proposing. We're proposing to put a charger right where we have all of these wonderful businesses. People will come in from the Highway 401. People that live within the community will be able to use this facility. To charge, our proposal is to provide 300 kilowatt chargers with 4 ports, expandable up to 500 kilowatts. Based on our study of Hydro One's infrastructure in the area, the facility can support up to 500 kilowatt, but again, this will be subject to grid capacity review when we get to that stage. And so we'll start off with 300, and as demand grows, we'll expand it up to 500 or even more depending on where we stand. And that is possible without taking any extra spot. So the space we will need, we're requesting from the township, from the council, is the 4 parking spots right next to Military Road. We will use some of the green space between the parking spot and the road to provide a transformer and to connect our charging stations. These are some of the businesses that are in the area. So just north of the rail lines is the Loretta Shipwagon. The South Glengarry restaurant, I think we're all very familiar with the area. Lots of good restaurants we've eaten there. The grocery store has really good, the word I'm looking for is desserts and snacks. And I really like going there. And one very key part here is that when people are traveling long distance, they want to stop and they want to have access to amenities. They want to be able to use the washrooms should they choose to. They want some groceries, some snacks, which they can get at Henderson's. They want to eat South Glengarry restaurant and Sheehan's restaurant. If they want any medication, there's a pharmacy right there. There's a Bank of Montreal branch. So all of these facilities are available within the community. And so these people that are stopping to charge can use these facilities. So all of this combined makes our proposal a very well-rounded proposal. So with our chargers, we give people a reason to stop here. We anticipate up to 150,000. So the way this number comes up is we anticipate 90 car drivers will charge at these charging stations with our capacity. And this will be in the first 2 years of operation. We expect this will grow as people get more and more cars. This translates to about $500,000 to $1 million in additional spend at local businesses. While not a lot, we feel that this brings an opportunity to create some employment within the community, get more people employed, get more businesses, and just grow the community and benefit everybody. We also are exploring branding opportunities in partnership with the township, in partnership with local businesses. Our charges, at the moment, we're hoping, or we're working towards providing charges with screens where businesses can advertise their services. If they have a special, for example, at a restaurant, they can advertise. So people will come in, charge. We can put signage that says in partnership with the Township of South Glengarry. So there's a branding opportunity there as well. We can also offer preferred pricing. So I believe General Mayor Ms. McDonald was presented at the last council meeting about your fleet. We also met her before, and she mentioned that they are considering, but it's very early stages, about an electric vehicle fleet. One of the barriers for adoption for municipalities is the charging infrastructure. So with this right at the township's office, we can provide preferred pricing so your annual fuel costs reduce significantly as well. Quick charging, so in and out within 30 minutes. I'm Mohammed, or Mo Ehtisham. I'm an engineer out of Ottawa. I have 10 plus years of experience in infrastructure. Actually, I started working in oil and gas. My first few jobs were in Alberta. That's where I started, and now I'm in buildings design. We've deployed, so as part of my experience, I have deployed several level 2 chargers in Ottawa, level 3 also a few here and there. I've worked with different types of buildings, LEED Silver, LEED Gold, passive, and whatnot. Farah Bano is my business partner. She's a project manager. She's worked in construction about the same time. She has developed and executed projects with within a big range that includes high rises, that includes theaters for community centers, schools, additions, and whatnot. So we have a good team to deliver this to the township, to get this designed, built, constructed, and operational. We work with, these companies, we work with Schneider Electric for level 2 charges. We work with Evolution and another company called EVSCO for our level 3 charges. Grizzly provides our residential charges that we use within Ottawa for residents. Epic Charging and ChargeLab are 2 Canadian companies that we use for software. We're going to use either one of the 2. And Invest Ottawa, we've worked with them in the past to get some help to get our business off the ground and to move forward. So in order to deploy this, we're looking for a land use agreement with the township. Basically, this will involve allowing us to use a portion of the land. I have in our proposal that we shared earlier, I have included an appendix which outlines some of the area requirements that we need. With that, we will provide our chargers. We will also, if and when granted, we would need construction access permits. So all of that's a process that will come afterwards, but eventually we will go through all of this. But once operational, we would like some assistance or some guidance with community outreach, because a big factor in success is letting people in the area know that this is available. We've noticed, so we also live within we also are frequently visit and shop within Lancaster, and we've noticed there are quite a few electric cars there, and a lot of them travel through this corridor. So it's a prime location to target them, but we would also like partnership for community outreach, for engagement, for any comments, raising awareness. So many things come to mind when we go there. So that's basically it in a nutshell about of what we're offering. Again, my name is Mohammed Ramo, my business partner Farah Bano. My contact information, our contact information is right there.
Councillor Jaworski, do you have any questions? You are probably the biggest advocate for the electric fleet for ourselves, and has a shared history in natural gas and oil, or oil and
No,
lubricants.
that is true, but I still work in oil and gas. But yeah, I am a big advocate for the savings potential moving to electric. Questions about like the infrastructure that you're proposing, because there are some chargers that are on the other side of the 401. And I would just wonder if you could speak to, and I know you have to be careful when you speak to like competitors, but if you could speak to my understanding is that certain vehicles can use certain connectors and other vehicles can't. So I hope you could speak like sort of to the universality, for lack of a better word, of the system that you're proposing.
Yes, of course. So as a charge point operator, our goal is to be as universal as possible. electric cars themselves, they're going through a bit of a transition. They used a CCS standard. Now they're moving towards the North American charging standard, or one that was brought by Tesla. So our chargers will have the CCS standard with an adapter for an NACS. Or by the time we do get to deploy it, if we see that a lot of cars are coming to the NACS, we will use the latest and greatest standard. There isn't a standard that is called a CHAdeMO standard. I think only the Nissan Leaf, it's a very particular car that uses it. We'll see if we are able to feasibly include that, but that would be universality would be good to be able to achieve here for sure. And to your first question about charges on the other side of the road, that's true. There are actually charges on quite a few of the exits in and around Cornwall. There is one on Boundary Street. There's one on the same off-ramp. But the difference so electric vehicles, based on my communication with the Electric Vehicle Council of Ottawa and Gatineau, is that people like to use chargers where they can walk around, shop, and there are a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of good restaurants and local businesses that support that use. And also, me personally, whenever I travel to Toronto from Ottawa, there's a Big Apple that I stop at and it's nice. It's not a gas station or anything. It's not amenities, but it's a nice place to be. And so that's what we're hoping to provide as a service offering to people that drive electric cars.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you. And in terms of, so if I understand correctly, you've installed these, some in the Ottawa area. What's sort of the arrangement in terms of, like, are those spaces reserved only for vehicles that are charging? Sort of how is that kind of managed?
So the projects I referenced earlier are level 2 charges mostly. They are owned by the building owners or the lot owners. They own them, they operate them, they use them for their own fleets. I don't think any of them are public. One is at a university, but they also use them for their own fleets.
Would be your first public installation?
So those were, I was the engineer, so I served as a consultant to the building owners to design them. This would be through Move Energy, and we would own and deploy, design and engineer everything, yes. So this would be more of a charge point operator model rather than designing for somebody else.
If I may, if you could just speak to again though, in terms of like these 4 parking spots, there can only be used by cars that are charging? Would that be part of the arrangement, or?
Yeah, that we would, yeah, yes.
Are there any other questions from around? Okay. So then, as I said to the previous presenters, we don't make direction or decisions at this present time, but we can throw this one back to administration to see what their thoughts are. I do know, like, public parking in that area, just a heads up that there's some constraints because of roadside parking, but I did like your speech on how wonderful Lancaster is, because it does have everything. Councillor Bougie lives in Lancaster, and you know, like, it has recreation, great store, wonderful restaurants, pharmacy. Go across the road and there's a jewelry outlet too, in addition to a few cannabis areas if you're into CBD oils. Thank you for highlighting that, but we'll get a report back from staff because there will have to be some research into there. I know the adjacent land owner has a sense of ownership to those properties, but that will be a discussion for staff to have. But yeah, I do like the idea of having the gas infrastructures everywhere on both sides of the highway and north of the village. So having electric infrastructure on both sides of the highway, even in north of the village, if this is the way, I guess, Canada's going, it's nice to have options for those who drive it. Our fire chief has an electric vehicle too, so I don't know if he might have some input. And I'm rambling, so I'm going to get to it and say thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, we'll get a staff report back in a subsequent meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we do move into action requests now. This is third line at DeLille River, structure number 30054, bridge rehabilitation. That's Ms. McDonald. Moved by Counselor McDonnell, seconded by Counselor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-43 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry authorize administration to draw up to $400,000 from the Bridge and Structures Reserve to undertake the major rehabilitation of Third Line Road Bridge over the DeLille River, structure number 30054. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have with me tonight Matt Brunell from the SCG United Counties. He is their Manager of Capital Works and Bridges, also known as the bridge guy for the region. So I will speak to the general South Glengarry stuff, and I thought that Mr. Brunell could talk a little bit more about what's going on with their bridge and what we're proposing to do. So as is usual, we're at about that point where I'm asking for more money, unfortunately, for one of our projects. It's a structure on the Third Line Road. When we got into it, and I always say this, when we got into it, we found that there was a bit more to do than we thought there would be. This time with so we awarded our design work to Keystone, and part of that design contract was to undertake a preliminary design report, which is not something we typically do. Usually we jump right into design and kind of figure it out as we go along. The benefit of this PDR is that we get a little bit more information up front, and we get this life cycle analysis into the various options available to us. So even when we started the project, we looked at it, and the consultants from their cursory review said, okay, we think you're likely aligned in budget and scope with what we see from Google. And when we went out with the bridge master, we looked under, we sanded the deck, and they really got their visual. They realized that we were, like I said, in for it for a bit more. So the ask, I'll do the ask, and I'll pass it over to Mr. Brunell. The ask is $400,000 from Structures Reserve to undertake this work this year. It's quite a bit of money, and it will require a realignment of our future capital planning for bridges. From the perspective of asset management, it's very sound. It's just unfortunate that we do have to realign every year our expectations for this year and the next one. Part of our capital plan also included a similar PDR for the Frog Hollow Bridge. I'd hope to keep going with that, so maintain that $50,000 in our budget for this year, and perhaps borrow from that capital project to fund this capital project. But the PDR are really invaluable. The life cycle costs are really neat to get into, but I'm going to pass it over to you, Matt, to kind of describe what's going on with the bridge. We have pictures up, and then if you could just go on to the, after that, like what we are proposing to do.
So as Sarah stated, we did get the preliminary design report, and it kind of gave us a good chance to go over the kind of minor, major, and full-scale rehab options. We did take a look at, you can kind of see in the photos there, the deck has some large asphalt patches. And once they went around with the hammer, started sounding things, there's a lot you can't really see with your eye until you go out with a hammer or a chain, and you can kind of hear the difference of what's kind of deficient in those areas. So it kind of took the minor rehab option out because it leaves us trying to patch that and then not really getting what we're looking for at the end of the day. So I think the option there is to kind of get rid of all that bad concrete, provide a new concrete riding surface, and that's kind of what's entailed in option 2. And then you'll see along the edges on the underside, there is no curb on the bridge at the moment. So the only way to really fix that is to kind of get either a raised curb or a barrier wall or something of that nature. So this plan that we're looking at would see us kind of remove that whole edge full depth, recast a new end section with a raised curb that would control the water and at the same time fix the issue at hand and keep the water from running onto the girders. The existing expansion joint has been in service for quite a while and is leaking. Fortunately, the girders are in great shape at the moment, and that's really, we see it at the county level, it's the big cost to your rehab. If you miss that window where you're not fixing your girders in time, that's when things become very expensive. So this is kind of a good chance to get in there while things are in good condition. And what Sarah's probably sick of hearing me talk about is the semi-integral joint conversion. So it would actually take the metal armoring from the surface away, and we would essentially extend the deck over a little further away from the ends of those girders and allow for movement a little further behind that. What the addition to that as well is it also removes some future maintenance for you, just in case maybe there's not money at the time or it gets forgotten, frankly. So it's just kind of one of those things where you engineer the problem right out of the equation. So I guess I told Sarah to kick me if I ramble too much in my comments here, but we felt we went back with the option 2, the major rehabilitation, and tried to find some ways to cut some costs. So we kind of came out of here with an option 2B, which was a bit of a cost refined version. So I guess we're comfortable, yeah, going with option 2. And I guess if you guys have any questions, by all means.
I will just add, sorry, on the life cycle costs. So the minor rehab, it's table in point 5 in the staff report. So with the minor rehab, which is what we were originally looking at, we do a minor in year 0. So right now, 15 years, we do a major. And at year 35 from now, we do a replacement. With the major rehabilitation option, right now, we do our major. And in 35 years, we do a replacement. The consultants feel, they're not going to put this in writing, but they feel that in 35 years that we can probably limp it along another 10 if we just continue to monitor it and watch it. So we could potentially get 45 years out of the major without touching it between now and that 35, 40-year range. And the deck replacement is just not warranted at this time, but we threw it in case council wanted to see that. So that was some of the life cycle costing that we did, and they did do the whole, oh, there we go. No, I can't do that. Anyways, what's it called? What's a deficit? It's not a deficit. Depreciation. Yeah. I'm going to look. When you,
Depreciation, amortization?
one of those. Whenever you look at the 3%, 5%, and 7% versus what you would have made on that money had you not invested it in this, but in another investment. And for the 3 and 5%, I believe it came up, the major rehab was the option where the township wouldn't lose out on an investment, like a funding investment for putting their money. Like the sound investment at a 3 and 5% gain is the major rehabilitation option. Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from the table for this particular one? Did I read also like that the minor rehabilitation, even at that, was above what was expected initially and considerably?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, and this is one of the reasons why I raved about the PDR at the beginning. Our OSIM estimates are incredibly terrible, and they seem to be that way for everyone. It's not just South Glengarry. So with throwing that PDR is not a major cost of the design, and we just get really good information out of it. So if we can do one the year ahead of when we construct, then council will have good budget numbers for you, because I do not like going back and asking for money every year. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't think I have an issue with making this move. I think this highlights just again when we go to budget and we need to talk more infrastructure, and we need to, I guess, in my opinion, look at the core mandate of council and the municipality, which is we have our core infrastructure, we have our recreation infrastructure, and beyond that, we have a duty to provide a service to the residents of the municipality, and roads, bridges, garbage, and the arena and snowplows are the only things I ever get a phone call on. So I mean, it's if you don't upkeep the infrastructure, it just costs you tenfold further down the road. So I think it's something we should move forward with specifically to this project. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I'm about 2 miles from it, and use it quite often. But no, I don't see an issue at this point. I just caution that we should be talking about this now, in the sense that this will impact next year's budget to the tune already of $400,000. So we're not even into budget talks and finishing our year ends for auditors and things like that, and we're already talking about next year's budget costing $400,000 more just to keep us on track to where we need to be to sustain our core infrastructure. So thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the detailed analysis and your expertise as well, sir. So thank you very much.
I suppose financially, as you're talking there, like I think we added quite a bit to Bridges Reserve this year. So I mean that's quite fortunate. But it's on that, as you said, like the focus on infrastructure. So I don't see any other questions. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. So next one is 8B, Award Procurement 06-2025 SUV Purchase. Be presented by Mr. Raby, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougee. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-44 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 06-2025 for the purchase of one gas SUV, all-wheel drive, to Roy's Chevrolet Buick GMC as per their submission of $35,248 plus HST, and furthermore, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign any relevant documents. Mr. Raby.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Administration recently issued a tender for the purchase of one gas SUV, all-wheel drive, that had a closing date at the end of March. Currently, the Planning, Building, and Enforcement Department shares one pickup truck between 3 building officials, a bylaw officer, and a community planner. We typically give vehicle priority to the bylaw officer just due to the nature of the job and the fact that they need to be identified and visible when they're on site. So sometimes that leaves building officials driving their personal vehicles for site inspections whenever the vehicle is in use. So with that said, we are in need of a second vehicle for our department. We did receive 4 submissions. 2 of those were from Roy Chevrolet. One was from Seaway Chevrolet, and the other was from Miller Hughes Ford. 3 of the 4 submissions were within $600, which was great to see. And through the evaluation of the tender, we are recommending to award the tender to Roy Chevrolet for $35,248 plus HST for the 2026 Chevrolet Equinox. In terms of budget, we did budget $35,000 this year in the 2025 budget to purchase a new vehicle, which is just a little bit less than the quotations that came in. So we are missing $248 plus the portion of HST that's the municipality doesn't get back. And our plan is to draw that from the building department's operating budget in 2025. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions from around the table? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving on to 8C, former Williamstown Fire Station, Memorandum of Understanding. Mr. Robertson. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2025-45 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry enter into a memorandum of understanding with the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society to permit the township to access and utilize the property legally described as Lot 21 on Registered Plan 19 in the geographic township of Schlottenburg, now the Township of South Glengarry, known as 19652 John Street, Williamstown, for access to the hydrant, water pump, and the use of the messaging sign. Mr. Robertson.
Good evening, Council, and thank you. I bring to Council a positive community arrangement that we're presenting tonight. As Council's aware, we've moved our Williamstown Fire Station to a new location on William Street. Our former location on John Street was purchased by the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society. On that property, there was a number of assets that we used for our fire operations, and we have reached out to the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society, and they are in agreement that are in favor of our fire service and thus the community using some of those assets as we move forward. So those assets, there are 2. There's a water hydrant, pressurized water pump, dry hydrant that is in the St. Lawrence River, the Raisin River, and it feeds up to a hydrant that's in the parking lot so that we can arrive at that location. We can fill in for structure fires. We can fill our water tanker vehicles at that location, and it also has a community messaging board that in the past we've put both community and fire prevention messages on. So this agreement that we've come up with the society would be that the responsibilities of the fair board would be that they would continue to supply power to the water pump and to the sign. They would allow us permission to use to gain access to the building so that we can use the controllers for both. And in return, the township will continue to remove snow during the winter season from the areas that we need access to access the building. So I think it's a very positive story. It allows us to, at current, we do not have a water storage cistern or capacity at the new fire station. So this arrangement allows us to continue to use a resource that we've used in the past for very economical agreement. So this memorandum of understanding speaks to that. So I just think it's a positive story using an asset that otherwise would not be used. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a comment. Thank you, Fire Chief Robertson, for putting this together. And I think it is absolutely a great partnership with the township and the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society. So well done.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks as well, Chief Robertson. I think in the grand scheme of things, at the end of the day, it's a good partnership for both the municipality and for the Ag Society. And the monetary cost that it's going to cost us is minimal, especially when you figure if it's ensuring we have enough water to put a house fire out in the village. It's not a very big cost at the end of the day for us. So, thank you.
All right. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So we're moving to bylaws, municipal mobile device policy. It's presented by Ms. Campo, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved that staff report 2025-46 be received and that bylaw 2025-17, being a bylaw to adopt a municipal mobile device policy, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 14th day of April 2025. Ms. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The policy that's before council this evening is a municipal mobile device policy. And essentially the purpose of this policy is to regulate both cell phones or mobile devices that are issued to employees through the municipal plan, as well as for employees who choose to use a personal device and a personal plan for municipally related business. The reason why this policy is coming before you now is just simply because we don't have a policy at present. We've had, our standard procedure that we've informally followed for many years. However, we have had some instances coming up over the last, I feel like it's been going on over a year now. We keep coming back to this and the need for a policy so that we're applying consistent policies and procedures across the organization and from department to department. So essentially, this policy formalizes our current practices with some amendments which are noted in the staff report. I do want to provide a little additional context on the rates. You'll note that we're proposing an increase both in the rate that is reimbursed to an employee who uses a personal device, as well as what an employee using a municipally issued device is paying back to the municipality. Some of the reasoning behind those increases, the rates have not been adjusted or increased in quite some time, if ever. I don't believe they've changed in my 12 years with the township. And so we've added a slight increase to just keep up with the rising cost of everything these days. And to give you a little bit of context, so a cell phone on our municipal plan typically is costing about $75 per month. So we're asking employees who are on that program to contribute a little bit back for their personal use of that device when it's not being used for municipal purposes. Otherwise, any changes to our current practice are outlined in the report, and we're just looking to formalize this so that we have consistent practices moving forward. And I am happy to answer any additional questions.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have an issue with it, with looking at this policy either, or having a proper policy in place. I know I was sitting with a neighboring municipality employee, and actually this sort of issue kind of came up where they did not have a policy in place, and it was a municipal phone that was being used for personal as well, and they didn't have a kind of a how to deal with an issue incorporated within that policy, as far as if somebody accidentally made a mistake while on vacation and turned their phone on, or incurred overages, and how that was handled. And I think they resolved it, very efficiently, and it was fine, and the employee came good for it. But in an instance where there's a disagreement into which capacity that phone was used, you can have an argument, and this just outlines it and takes care of that right away. Something just to look to, I know as well, we've discussed it in the past. I think we've looked into different providers and maybe making a change in the near future. So maybe we adjust those rates based on, if we do get a preferred rate or a better rate, because $75 a line isn't necessarily that cheap anymore, based on what you see some of the providers offering for personal, and some other good business plans that actually we've taken advantage of at home. So some things to look into, and maybe we can set a percentage based on what we're doing here, and adjust it as rate plans change for the municipality.
All right, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Sorry that I didn't give a heads up on this one, but I'm wondering if we know how this aligns potentially with other municipalities or the counties. Thanks.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did do some research on that. I did have our deputy clerk look into that, and where we landed and kind of how we came to the number we came to was based on the rates of some of our neighboring municipalities. So we are in line with our neighbors.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. So all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. On to the consent agenda. 11A, summary, committee of the whole fleet conversation. 87, page 87. So I was the one that asked for this one to be pulled. I suppose my only question would be, because there is 6 items there that are identified, and thank you for identifying them. Is there I know kind of we want them all done immediately. Is there 1 or 2 or 3 there that are highlighted? Because I do appreciate with asset management planning coming due July 1st, and then also the construction of the water tower. Those are probably bigger priorities. So just trying to think of to make it so we can be successful, if there were 2 here or 3 here that were top of list. I'm just curious. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would say for myself, I would say the winter response and roads level of service. I think it's something achievable that can be done, in fair order. I wouldn't say in short order. It's going to take some time and some analysis and some work from our staff, but it's something that could give us an achievable outcome. I mean, for right-of-way policy review being summer mowing levels of service, we're not going to change that before and review that policy in time to make credible changes for this year. Our roadside cutting is going to start in the next couple of weeks, and we've already got a roadside spraying contract signed for this year through the United Counties. That's something that could realistically be done over the next winter and into the fall, whenever as things kind of quiet down and snow ramps in. Personally, and I guess as we look to, for myself, I would say also the disposition of assets. It's always one that comes up. And we think it's not one. It's never top of mind until we've got another asset to dispose of, and we seem to always have an asset every year or two or a number of them to dispose of. So maybe something we should look at on a sooner basis. So I would say my winter, and I'd be A and F for myself at this point as priorities. Wheeled excavators taken care of. Summer students, that's probably in place already. Again, too late for this year, and right of way too late for this year, so.
Okay, thank you for obliging me, and thanks for the comments. Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. I don't think I'm very different from what Councillor McDonald just said, but I think basically lining it up with, when they could actually be actioned. So, for example, like, I would like that the summary of disposition options be completed before the next piece of equipment comes for disposition, whether that's in 6 months or a year. I would like that to happen before that. Same thing if, like, for winter roads response, I'd like that to be done in time for, like, budget discussion, again, because I don't think we would be, or further enough along. I think some of these things might be more than one phase, I think, in terms of level of information, but I think I would like that the end goal would be that if there's information that potentially is actionable by budget. So, yeah, sort of looking at it based on that way. So I'm not going to say that one is like a higher priority for me, although I would say just like as a framework, like the bigger the dollars, either positive or negative, I think that those ones should be dealt with first.
Thank you. Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would agree absolutely. Winter response and getting some information on that would be priority for me. And I guess as Councillor Jaworski had mentioned, the rest, I guess, as Ms. McDonald can see it fitting in, but absolutely having it ready for budget and council having opportunity to discuss that at budget time so that we can move these things forward. But winter response would be my number one.
So I think that gives some idea, just because I was looking at it and I was thinking to myself as former administration being like, okay, what can I actually get done? And I think that's fair, and I do like the idea kind of that, like, they come to us before the thing comes to us. And I thought that's thoughtful that, like, winter response should come before budget. So I think that, I mean, what was said is I can't better that, bring it up before the action that's required that we've asked for it. Okay, thank you very much for obliging that one. We'll move to clearing consent agendas. Oh, is there something I missed, perhaps? Okay, great. So consent agenda, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, boards and committee updates. One thing you'll notice is the Border Mayors Alliance has been taken off that because Ms. Campo has been sending the literature. It is often. We get tariff updates every evening. They're a little bit bigger than our order of government, but they meet on Thursdays, so that will be 2 days from now. Are there any updates? There was a Raisin Region Conservation Authority meeting. We did have a meeting, not too much discussed. Our next strategic meeting is this Thursday, so that will be the strategic plan, again, being updated for the first time in a little over 20 years. Are there any other boards that have met between now and the last meeting? Or comments about some correspondence? Please proceed, Councillor Jaworski.
Sure, thank you. We did have, the one that I'm listed against, it has had a meeting since the Environment Committee. We had a meeting on March 25th where staff gave an overview of the clear bag discussion that occurred at the council table and the consultation steps that were going to be taken. Also, the draft solid waste management bylaw was, staff also provided an overview of that. And then the committee discussed items that they'd like to discuss or learn more about for the remainder of the year. And one of those items was shoreline stabilization restoration, specific to township properties. And I think there was also an education item listed about invasive species. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the update. That's a fairly active committee. As Councillor Jaworski once said, it's the most popular one in the community. All right, so we're getting into closed session. Moved by Counselor McDonnell, seconded by Counselor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 8:16 PM to discuss the following items under Section 239-2 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is K, plans and instructions for negotiation, specifically instructions for negotiations. All those in favor? Carried. We'll now move into closed session. Moved by Counselor Bougie, seconded by Counselor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council rise and reconvene into open session at 8:32 PM without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor Jaworski, seconded by Counselor Bougie. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Sorry. The confirming bylaw, moved by Counselor Bougie, seconded by Counselor Jaworski. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-18, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 14th day of April 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment, moved by Counselor McDonnell, seconded by Counselor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 8:33 PM. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good night, everyone.